Hey there, my name is Maris and I'm a video fellow here at Community Change. Our mission is to build power from the ground up, and in order to build that power, we need to know the kinds of bills that the people we voted for are passing into law. Because no matter our differences, most of us want pretty similar things. Two of the most consequential pieces of modern legislature moved through Congress this year, a policy framework made up of two bills, the infrastructure bill and a budget reconciliation bill. You may have heard news about the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act and Build Back Better Act floating around in the news, but like me, are still kind of confused about what each of them entail. I asked my friends and family on Instagram any questions that they may still have about the bill and compiled some answers that I think might be helpful in helping us understand why these bills matter.
So why should I care about any of this?
First, the most important question: why should I care? No matter where you live or what you do for a living, it's very likely that these bills will impact you one way or another, from healthcare to childcare to the climate emergency. Whether you're thinking of starting a family soon or have plans to do so in the future, there are things in this bill that will make education and childcare more equitable for future generations. Should you or a loved one need life-preserving medication one day, these bills might be a key player in making sure you can afford that medication. And as far away as the effects of the climate emergency feel at this very moment, it's worsening every second. And while these bills alone won't save the planet, they give us a chance to rewrite the rules so that all families in America have a chance to stay and get well. Every working person has a good and safe job, and every community can protect our land and air for generations to come. These bills are a down payment on our future. As a young Filipino-American immigrant, daughter of immigrants, and woman of color, a lot of things in this bill are consequential for me, my future, and my loved ones. Because you never know what's around the corner, we need to go in for all of us. The provisions in the Build Back Better bill will benefit someone in my neighborhood, or someone who didn't get to grow up as lucky as I did. One day, I want to get married and have kids, and I want my kids and their friends to grow up in a world where they never have to hear the words climate emergency ever again. So the TLDR is that these bills help us rewrite the rules to improve conditions for low-income and middle-class folks, the environment, and future generations to come. These bills are giving us the tools to make sure that we can create a world where all of us can prosper.
What is the infrastructure bill?
The infrastructure bill is a bipartisan bill that tackles traditional infrastructure. It's exactly what you think of when you think of the word infrastructure. So roads, highways, public transportation, bridges, and the jobs that provide these public goods. With climate change in mind, this bill also invests billions of dollars in expanding the number of electric charging vehicle stations around the country and climate resiliency measures for people who are affected by coastal flooding and wildfires. It also provides funding for broadband internet upgrades, especially those in rural and indigenous communities. This bill also contains some provisions to fix lead pipes to ensure that everyone has clean drinking water.
What's in the budget reconciliation bill?
The $1.75 trillion budget reconciliation bill is also known as the Build Back Better Act. Some people consider it the social infrastructure bill because it provides resources for the people and communities that keep our country running. A version of this bill passed the House in November and is now currently being debated in the Senate. The bill would fund over $700 billion in universal pre-K, affordable childcare, paid family and medical leave, and expand the improved child tax credit. It also provides provisions for affordable housing. It also provides hearing benefits for Medicare, expands the Affordable Care Act, expands insurance coverage for low-income children, and puts caps on how high drug makers can raise their prices. This bill also includes provisions for undocumented immigrants to attain lawful permanent residency, with changes to immigration law that would mean dreamers, temporary protection status workers, and essential workers would qualify for permanent residency. And lastly, in the same vein as its companion infrastructure bill, the federal government would be making major investments in renewable energy and electric vehicles. Keep in mind that the Build Back Better Act is still moving through Congress. We can expect changes while it's still in the upper chamber, but for now, these are the provisions that address our country's social infrastructure.
When will it take effect?
The infrastructure bill, the first bill that was signed into law by President Biden on November 15th, is technically in effect now. But you can think of it like planting a tree for your grandkids. As the funds are distributed over time and invests in generational change, not all of the effects will be felt right away.
Is there anything in there about a minimum wage increase?
The infrastructure bill would ensure that the vast majority of jobs come with prevailing wages for the occupations in the region where the projects are underway. The federal government determines prevailing wages, or the wages most workers get paid in the region. The Build Back Better Act also does significantly tighten penalties for companies that violate fair labor standards. And to federal contractors that want the funding that the infrastructure bill provides, they have to pay their workers $15 an hour.
What is the Civilian Climate Corps?
The Civilian Climate Corps is an element of the Build Back Better plan, which takes inspiration from the New Deal's Climate Conservation Corps. It would essentially employ thousands of young people to tackle climate-related issues like reforestation, biodiversity, and overall community resilience.
How will the infrastructure bill affect me as a student?
A major provision for students will start at pre-K, with universal pre-K and affordable access to childcare. At the higher education level, it increases the maximum amount of Pell Grants, which is a form of federal aid that low-income students can apply for, by $500. In better serving students of color, the bill would also invest in HBCUs and minority-serving institutions, like Hispanic-serving colleges and tribal colleges. This is just the beginning of the generational change that will leave a lasting legacy for years to come, especially for marginalized communities and low-income folks. To build power, we need to be aware of the policies that affect our communities, whether we feel those effects today, next year, or 5 years from now. The Build Back Better plan is more than an economic stimulus. We are closer than ever to creating an economy that works for all of us, no matter where we live, where we went to school, or where we choose to build our lives with our loved ones.